It is now title update 23, and I need a good solo build. So I grabbed my gaming chair and I got to work. I initially thought this was going to be an easy task. I mean, I've made plenty of solo builds in the past before, and they've always worked in whatever update I made them in. Why would today be any different? There are 3 things I always focus on when I make my solo builds: damage, survivability, and what's killing me the most. Following these 3 steps has always helped me throughout the years, but times have changed, and nothing is guaranteed to work. I made a community post about a month ago, asking for some critique on a solo build I was making. And before we get into why this build completely flopped, I'd like to shout out everyone who took the time to read the post and also give me feedback on the build. I would love to get into the many reasons that this build failed, but to sum it all up, it has everything to do with the current state of PvP. Everyone and they mamas is running foam. And let's not forget, the big dog that will run your pockets every time if it so happens to even glance your direction. Hazard protection this update is absolutely king, and since this build can only reach 60% hazard protection with my booster hive included, this setup was simply doomed to fail from the jump. A subscriber even tested the build himself, reinforcing the idea that this build is just not enough. So what is? It's a build that I've been slightly perfecting for the past few months. A build to challenge Goliath and win. A build that will echo throughout history as one of the best solo builds to be ever made. A build! It's literally just headshot regen. It's nothing special. I am so sure that you have seen some version of a regen headshot build within the past few days, but I'm here to explain how and why my setup has helped me big time in solo gameplay. I'm also going to discuss what changes can be made now and what changes I will make in the future to make this build 10 times better. Starting off with my primary weapon. The Bighorn is now my top pick for solo gameplay. With all the different types of status running around the Dark Zone, I no longer use the Eagle Bearer. Proccing Tenacity is a guaranteed death wish, unless you get the perfect server where no one's using status, no one's trying to cheese you, and everyone is just using gun builds running at you blindly. Brother, good luck. My main secondary is the M870. I don't use it that much because when you're using the Bighorn, you don't want to switch weapons often. Being that the talent on the Bighorn is working off how many stacks you have, it is very important that you don't switch weapons often because then you're losing damage. My sidearm is always the Orbit. You are absolutely guaranteed to run into an NPC within the Dark Zone. It's either shooting you in the back while you're manhunt, or it's keeping you in combat 8 miles away. Whatever the case may be, you are guaranteed a chance to proc this talent. And not only can you proc it off NPCs, you can also proc it off player skills. Everyone uses a skill. Everyone uses a defender drone. Everyone uses a bleed hive. There is always a skill that is deployed when you're fighting players. Take advantage. Getting into my gear, I ended up going with 3-piece Golan over 3-piece Gila for a multitude of reasons. There are plenty of regen builds out there that have 0% hazard protection on their build. So the 1 piece of Golan, while it may not be a lot, helps me keep those builds in place for 10% longer. And I'm aware that Gila has 0.5% more armor regen on it, but Golan has 5% more total armor. And without thinking about it fully, you might say, well, Gila's better then. If it has more regen, Golan only has 5% more total armor, why not just go with Gila for more regen? That is what you would say, right? Taking the Golan route on a regen build means that I get a stronger adrenaline rush and I'll also get a stronger cleansing cloud from Catharsis. The amount of armor and healing I get from Catharsis has helped me so many times when I'm fighting Pestilence builds. And when I plan to get this build to max expertise, which I will do soon, this build is only going to get better. For my chest piece, I'm using the Everyday Carrier. Another very good honorable mention would be the Hunter Killer. I don't use the Hunter Killer mainly because when I'm solo, my medkits are my lifeline. Being that I normally fight 4 to 6 players at a time, the Hunter Killer is barely even active for me most of the time, so I'm not even getting that Intimidate. But I will say, not using Intimidate is a double-edged sword. Yes, while fighting 4 to 6 players, it may not be active most of the time, but when you run into a regen build that has Intimidate and you're solo running perfectly efficient, the amount of damage that they can do to you in a short amount of time is crazy. So to combat those types of builds, I just keep a Bellstone chest piece with Intimidate on it, and because it's only 4% less than a Hunter Killer, I still get a lot of benefit from using it. For my knee pads, I'm using Emperor's Guards. I am still looking for these knees with a hazard roll on them. Honestly, I don't need the headshot damage, and I would much rather have 10% more hazard so I can get my build to 60%. When I am able to make that change, with my booster hive included, I'll be at 80% hazard protection. And my booster hive is only at 15% expertise. I plan on maxing this out. I'm not too sure how much hazard protection I will gain from max expertising this booster hive, but I'm hoping when it all adds up, I'll be at 90% total. And when that happens, I'll be able to change my 10% headshot mod to a 10% burn resistance mod, making the Iron Lung impossible to burn me. For my skills, I just run Riot Foam and Booster Hive. I'm at a point in the game where I literally just don't care. I'm going to use some cheese back to make sure that my solo manhunt is not jeopardized just because of my own ego. These are my stats. Take a pause for a better look. But yeah man, this is my solo headshot regen build. I plan to fully expertise and optimize this build, and I'll give an update when I do, because I definitely plan to use this for the rest of the update. And I do have a couple other builds lined up, but I have to continue like testing them to see if they're even good or not, and I'll definitely get back with y'all to let y'all know what I do next. So if you want to stay up to date, don't forget to subscribe. I'm going to leave you guys with some gameplay. I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace and love, baby.